The scale of the restrictions is unprecedented in the history of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, which serves 20 million people and has been in operation for nearly a century.
Wow. Good rant, buddy. So our next Hello and welcome to Relevant Rants, where the topics might not be altogether relevant, but we definitely will rant.
This is very true.
Basically what it is.
Roll the video. So in our first article, California declares unprecedented water restrictions amid drought. Amid a once-in-a-millennium prolonged drought fueled by the climate crisis, one of the largest water distribution agencies in the United States is warning 6 million California residents to cut back their water uses this summer or risk dire shortages. The scale of the restrictions is unprecedented in the history of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, which serves 20 million people and has been in operation for nearly a century.
Wow. Good rant, buddy. So our next
So coming from a family of farming in as background, and that's kind of where I came from in history, and did that for the early part of my life. Grew up more or less on a farm, and my dad is actually still in farming. Have a few things to say about that, but the article goes on to talk about global warming and dryness of the forests and forest fires and all that. But a couple of the points, and I've had at length conversations with other people in the farming community about this. And number one is a lot of this problem is being actually caused by overplanting of crops. So we're producing a lot of crops here in the Central Valley of California, and frankly, more than is necessary. And so that's causing a problem. Also, there's a population problem in California, which is California's fixing for itself.
Doing a great job.
Yeah, doing a great job of driving everybody out. But also, and this is one of the bigger problems, also mismanagement of resources.
Yes.
So we have these reservoirs in California and all of this stuff, and a lot of the water we're just flushing out to the ocean. So there's a legitimate drought, and there has been, and this is just one of the cycles. There's several cycles, and there was a drought like in the 80s, late 70s, another drought, other droughts since then, and then now we're in another drought now. But we had historically done a better job than we're currently doing of maintaining the infrastructure and managing those, and then also the bad forestry practices are creating a problem, right? So the article talks about, the forests are dry and everything else. Well, our current state administration, state officials are doing a very poor job of managing those forestry resources, causing fires and everything else. Whereas in the past, they'd kind of, logging, and now they're outlawing that and, putting some major restrictions on that. They're not clearing the land, but then also they used to do like controlled burns to keep those stuff more under control.
Exactly.
And a lot of this is opinion as well. So we will again list all of the references, sources, and all that for you guys to go look at for yourself. But I feel that mismanagement of our resources is also contributing to the drought, as far as like the forestry and all that, because we're not allowing stuff to just kind of naturally cycle through the way it would.
Exactly. Yeah.
young people ask for transparency in job postings, saying the deck is stacked against job seekers. Now, this article was written in Canada.
Yes,
but it was based off of
article,
Canadian Canadian and U.S.
Yes, this
is
US
also research. Yeah,
just because it's a Canadian article, it also is occurring in the U.S.
Yeah, I know, it's interesting. They said they gathered. According to like the notes here too, it was a fascinating article just because it seems like more and more people, as we are getting older, the more and more younger people are wanting to share how much they make to their fellow coworkers.
Yes,
which is super interesting because like when I was working and I was like 16 or 17, no one would talk about that. That was a huge
it was for me as well.
That was a forbidden zone. You don't talk about how much your coworkers get paid,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of more out of respect, I think, more than just anything else. Now I know people complain or just like, well, how much are you getting paid? And if you say $1 more, you're like, well, I do more than you, and then they get up in a fuss and they go complain to management. And it's fascinating too because it says in the article later on, it says that companies are now offering salary positions, but there's something in those salary, like when they sign off, that says they cannot disclose how much they make to other employees.
Exactly.
And it's even saying that those employees and those companies are happier because of that. And that's, of course,
I thought
their
I
opinion.
thought they were purposely actually making them disclose how much they're making.
Wait, are they disclosing?
Yeah, like they're literally like their policy is an open disclosure
okay,
policy.
my bad. Then I already messed up that article. Then I misread that because like
No,
if
I
you're
know, but it's
disclosing
usually the other way around.
it's usually
That's
the other
why.
way around. Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting because like so many places that I know, like places I've worked, places I've heard of, if you start telling about how much you get paid, it makes the whole situation worse. Everyone gets in more of a fit just about like how dare that person make more than me, or how dare that so and so, and then there's just, and it's worse on the management too, because the management just doesn't know what to do with it. I mean, it's kind of like most places when you have someone complaining, it's like, well, maybe that person's not working as hard as the other. I don't know. It's just there's a lot of weird things. It's hard to say.
I think when it comes to like disclosing your pay, I think it's gonna be like, I think flat out, people shouldn't just outright disclose their pay.
No.
I think what should happen though is this is hypothetically in a work environment where things are not fairly being equally, like pay is not being equally distributed, but like, I mean, really unfair. Like some guys making 25 an hour that just got hired and you're still making 18 or something. It's something where it's like, if you're going to disclose your pay, you better do something about it. Like you better demand whatever you need or want. Like you don't just go like, oh, I'm making this, and then you complain. It's going to be more like, I feel like it's more of those kind of, it sounds kind of cheesy, but like I do believe that there are some sort of like, there's industries where pay can be a bit suppressive, and then like maybe they deserve to get paid more, but not the fast food worker, not the entry level position.
I can definitely see a time when, I don't know though, it's like, it's so interesting. That's just something that I grew up in. You don't disclose certain personal information. That's a huge personal information thing that you just don't disclose. It is interesting though, because I wonder, because it is affecting companies clearly. It's like you get people who complain consistently, and maybe it is a good thing to a certain extent, because there are companies who will not give raises unless you do something like that. I worked for a company where you could not get a raise unless you quit and then get rehired. Like that was horrible. Like that's a horrible circumstance to be in. But at the same time, there's a mob culture that's not good, and that's what this is feeding into, is more of a mob frenzy.
Yeah, so I really feel like this is more of a cultural thing, right? So I do believe in being like fairly open about a lot of stuff, but I also believe, for really frankly the employees' personal privacy, that it shouldn't be disclosed. And some people are going to make more and some people are going to make less. We don't live in a fair world, and this isn't a democracy. You got to work for somebody, and if you want to be in charge of what everybody gets paid at that place, well, then you got to go out and start your own company. Right. But I also think I think there's a two-sided coin, right? Which we're going to get into some more content, like in some other videos for my personal channel, talking about some of these issues actually. So it's kind of cool. I'm kind of looking forward to that. But I think if you have people, in my opinion, depending on what your culture is, but if you have people that are complaining about stuff and talking about those kind of things, and kind of almost in a way, in this article was talking about like almost in a way where it's attacking the employer, like they don't belong, and you probably shouldn't have even had them there in the first place.
No, right? Definitely.
But go ahead.
I've managed several people before. I've had both ends of the spectrum. I've had people to where I set goals for people. I'm like, cool, you've achieved these things. You get you get compensated for that. And I know a lot of companies don't do that. And, this is just kind of how I've done it. And I've had people who've just been like, dude, I've been here for so long, I need my raise. And I'm just like, yeah, you've accomplished nothing that I've set for you, easily set. Why do you need a raise? Like there's certain things where it's like, and he's just complained. This person went above me and tried to complain. They got like their thing because they complained, and then they got fired a week later.
But I also that was their fault. That, what would you call it? Seniority, time in that position should have any bearing whatsoever on how much you're getting paid, right?
Yeah,
or how much you're getting raised.
Skill.
It's
skill and
motivation and like your drive, right?
Yeah.
So I see two sides to that coin, and but I also think you want to foster, like as an employer, like I want to foster a workplace where people like they get paid well. They get very well taken care of, and
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we do a fair job of doing that. But a place where that is not the number one motivating factor.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to develop a culture like that, then people who are going to do that don't belong there anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I do have a question for you though, and this
Yeah.
is like a very hypothetical situation. Let's say someone is working in a work environment where they do feel like they have been working hard and want a raise. Do you feel like that should be an individual's like journey and like job to try to get that raise, or do you think like there's a place for like kind of seeing like, oh yeah, a bunch of my coworkers that are at the same skill level as me are like also feeling underpaid? Like how would you go as an employer, how would you want to be approached if someone says like, hey, I've been doing XYZ, I would like a raise? Would you rather see them just individually like prove to you that they can earn a raise, or do you feel like how would you go about it?
Well, for me, and I may be unique in this, but I think I'm pretty proactive about making sure people are well taken care of financially.
Yeah.
In all sorts of areas, but financially, and I think that you guys can speak to that too.
Yeah.
But I think for me, and I can't speak for all employers, but work hard and focus on what you're doing, focus on doing a good job. Yeah. And you'll be fairly compensated. You'll be
for sure.
fairly taken care of.
I will say this though, and this is where I fall 50-50 on this, because I get early. I do not like mob mentality.
Yeah.
And I've seen people who take this and like the article could be pointing more of like, oh, these people are getting underpaid and like they won't say anything. Like, yeah, that's bad. But then I've seen the other side where it's like really bad. They're just constantly like barging in, just like, how dare you not pay me this? And that's where I fall on the line.
Yeah.
But there are companies out there that are so big and that are so like, or maybe even just they're so busy. They can't think about every single employee when they started, what their track record is. I mean, they should be hiring someone to keep track of all this stuff.
Yes.
But some companies can't do that. Some, even if they're small, they can't, they just can't function like that. So, I mean, for me personally, I always try every half year and just say, hey, where am I at progress wise? Where am I at? Like I think that's a good way to say it. Say, hey, where am I at progress wise? I've been here like 6 months and I have not learned anything new because nothing new has been presented to me. Can I learn something new? Yeah. Or like even especially like if I don't mention after 6 months, a year, I'm like, hey, I've been here for a year. Where should I be? How can I be more or contribute more to the company?
Exactly.
And I think that's the polite way and respectful way to go to your employer and say that, than just saying, hey, so and so's making more money than me. I want that.
Yeah, that's no way to go about it because
and if you're smart, I mean, you look at what your business you're in. Yeah. You look at the market value around you, and you can get a good sense for how much you should be compensated.
Exactly.
Well, and I also think that as an employer, employees aren't stupid. No. If you're hiring stupid employees, well, then maybe you're stupid yourself, right? But they're going to have a sense for what their market value is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're paying them under market value, you're only going to be able to do that for so long before they're going to, one, find out, and two, either ask for a raise or leave.
I was talking about the employees. The employees should know what they should be getting, around their same market value. If you're getting hired on, you don't want to be like, hey, how much you want to get paid? Oh, I don't know, minimum wage.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a two-sided coin, right? Yeah. The employer should have a good idea of what that should be also. Yeah. And if you're paying like 20% below market, well, then you're going to get skills that are 20% below market.
Exactly.
And if they do stay, they're not going to be a rock star, right? So we only want to hire rock stars.
Exactly.
Again, I think it really goes back to a cultural thing, right? Mm-hmm. Don't take advantage of your employees, but don't have employees that are going to try to take advantage of you.
Exactly.
And if you feel like you are underpaid, I would just suggest going and asking what you can do more, and ask to see if there is compensation for that. Yeah. Because I do know companies who will take advantage of that.
It would suck, but put in the extra work, and then the ball's in their court after that, I feel like. Yeah. Alrighty, so our next article is from BuzzFeed News, which is ew, but I thought the topic was pretty interesting. So it's Elon Musk's will.
Well, real quick, since you called that out, Alex, I think you should like make a point to say like I think you purposely picked some of these news sources because they were more left leaning and we're not.
Exactly. Yeah.
So talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So we one, it's a no-brainer that the majority of the articles on the internet are left leaning, but also because everything's left leaning, it's easier to grab something that's left leaning and have a discussion about it rather than only like, let's say we hypothetically only choose conservative articles. It's gonna just say how we feel, and there's no place for a discussion at that point, I feel like.
Yeah.
But if it's a left leaning one,
it's confirmation bias, echo chamber.
yes, exactly. And so that's why we choose stuff that tends to be left leaning, because one, they tend to be more interesting articles, but also it's just a great discussion base.
I personally didn't know BuzzFeed was still in business.
I thought they shut down too.
Me too. Yeah.
They should be, but
I agree.
No.
So this article from BuzzFeed News is Elon Musk will fund his Twitter deal with money from countries that suppress free speech. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this one specifically is because BuzzFeed News wanted to target Elon Musk for receiving financial support from Prince Alwaleed. I'm probably butchering that name, but oh well. He wrote on Twitter that basically he's going to be contributing $1.9 billion to the Twitter investment, and then the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Qatar will also contribute $375 million. And so basically, BuzzFeed, at least what I understood from the article, they're like, how dare Elon Musk be supportive of free speech, or at least saying that he is, and then he's receiving funding from like these oppressive countries. But the thing is that it's like a speck of the amount of money that is required. The deal is $44 billion, and it's about like $2.2 billion that is getting put into his investment, which I find hilarious. So basically, I feel like they're kind of nitpicking him, and I think this is going to go nowhere, and it probably already is because it's BuzzFeed.
Yeah, well, I think also BuzzFeed, aren't they based in the U.S.?
Yes.
Okay, so how can they say that, these other countries suppress free speech? Isn't that literally the reason that he bought Twitter, is because Twitter and Facebook and all of these other companies, news outlets, CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News, I think, can be accused of this.
Exactly.
Filtering speech as well. So, BuzzFeed saying, he's getting from countries that suppress free speech.
Yes.
Well, okay, but if you got money from the U.S. government suppresses free speech.
Exactly.
The U.S. news outlets suppress free speech.
Yes.
The U.S.-based social media companies suppress free speech. So thanks, BuzzFeed, who also suppresses free speech, for pointing the finger, and you have four more pointing right back at you.
Exactly. And what's even funnier is I put this in my little notes over here. I'm like how he was saying, what country in the nation does not suppress free speech in one way, shape, or form? Because the United States does it. It's just online. That's where the free speech gets censored. You can still say whatever you want for the most part, as long as you're on camera. These days, it's a little bit fishy about like stuff that gets documented and stuff like that. And also, to clarify, if you incite violence, that's not free speech, which happens a lot. Right. They're like, that's free speech. No, it's not. Stop it. But anyways, yeah. So I just thought this article was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, and going back to like all of how many times have people tried to shut down things happening at colleges, universities,
exactly,
because they're more conservative speaking. They're saying it's hate speech,
which is not a legal term at all.
Right.
It is in Canada, but not here.
Go into in another video maybe, but you're literally suppressing free speech by doing that, and then you're claiming, we're for free speech. No, we're you're only for freedom of speech that aligns with exactly what you want to say, which isn't freedom of speech at all.
Exactly.
So the next article is about the really big, frankly, current issue of Roe v. Wade, titled "Anonymous Hackers Warn Supreme Court Against Overturning Roe v. Wade, Saying Expect Us." A quote from the article says, "Repealing Roe v. Wade isn't going to go the way SCOTUS or the GOP thinks. It's going to go play with fire, get burned. Don't say we didn't warn you," the hacking collective wrote. Expect us. So the thing is, they're not outlawing abortion.
Nope.
No.
All they're doing is getting rid of the previous precedent that was set that says that all abortion all the time is legal, basically, more or less.
It's basically the federal aspect of it. So once the federal aspect is gone,
yeah,
the states are free to choose how they want to handle abortion.
right. So basically, the federal government is saying they're stepping out of the issue. So it's based on the state. So the thing is, and this was one of the points as we were discussing this that I wanted to make. Like, as a Christian, I'm very much against abortion.
Yes.
I think that life begins at conception. If you disagree, hey, we welcome your comments and your feedback. So let us know.
Yeah, we encourage discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. But in California, there's even crazier things going on, which we may get into in a later conversation.
Absolutely.
But as a libertarian, and I consider myself a conservative, but I see a lot of the libertarian stuff, and I identify with a lot of it. As a libertarian, I think, well, the government should stay out of it altogether. And so I'm very much for the states having their own freedom and right to choose what they want to do as a state level.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the less power the federal government has, generally, the better everyone gets to live.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not going and saying, oh, abortion's illegal. What they're doing is saying, hey, the federal government's going to have less input into this issue.
Yes.
So I'm very much for that.
Yeah.
Whether or not I was for abortion, I would be for that either way.
Yes.
But as I said, as a Christian, I'm very much against abortion. So.
Exactly.
This has been Relevant Rants. Thanks for watching. See you next time.